Hello, everyone, and welcome to 3WTV, tonight's broadcast of the Stay Tuned Sports. Never mind, the Total Nonstop Racing 3WTV Cup Series. I haven't done this in a while. It's been like a week and a half. I don't know what league I'm broadcasting, but hey, it's Total Nonstop Racing League 3Y. I should know that. We're 3WTV, and this is the cup that we sponsor here. But tonight, I'll get this one right, Bob. We got the InTOXIKated Gaming 146.3, the penultimate round of the 2022 Cup Series here in the Total Nonstop Racing League, and no better racetrack to have the InTOXIKated Gaming 146. Maybe I'm intoxicated. I promise you, I haven't drunk anything tonight. But we got 146.3 miles here tonight, Bob, around this joint. Yeah, a lot of different strategies for sure. We'll keep our eyes on that as all these drivers work their way around the racetrack. Just a minute 48 left here in the practice session. And, Bob, pretty interesting to see Jake Bustos atop the board right now. He's kind of been struggling this season to really get a win, but maybe tonight will be the night that the 74 punches his ticket to victory lane. Yeah, definitely has the power down for sure, as right now out there on the racetrack we have 47 seconds left. We'll talk about the point situation here in just a moment, but Bob, looks like for right now the racetrack going relatively quiet, although here's the number 13 of James Arello currently on the racetrack. He's working his way off into turn number 1, has the number 5 machine, Durand right behind him, currently sitting second and third on the speed charts. And one thing about this racetrack, we actually heard it from I can't remember who it was, Bob. We interviewed someone, and they said, man, I can't wait to get to a super speedway. Well, it's called a super speedway, but it doesn't really race like the other super speedways. It's definitely not Daytona or Talladega. It's cool, a little bit of contact off turn number 4, and ooh, more contact as the 13 goes up into the 64, and that is how we're going to round out practice here, Bob. So drivers will be heading out there onto the racetrack here momentarily. Let's see if we can go on board with one of these drivers. Right now, here is Bill Edward looking out front. He is one of our contenders for the championship here in the TNR Cup Series, presented by 3WTV, and of course, Schue's Lawn Service as well. As that was not a fun ride on board. That didn't last very long, but out there on the racetrack, here comes the number 99, the World Ninja League Ford Mustang of Philip Scott, who has been very good so far this season, Bob, trying to get himself up and possibly walk away with a championship. Yeah, and unfortunately, Bob, I was just looking at the website that usually has all of the point standings and all that good stuff. It's called Sim Racer Hub. Well, it looks like Sim Racer Hub might be having a little bit of a problem right now, not able to pull up any information. It just kind of says no series exists right now. It's doing that for several different leagues, and unfortunately, I can't pull up any point standings to kind of talk to you about, but we are out there on the racetrack right now here in qualifying. 2 minutes 52 seconds left as Jason Gracias in the 30.45 second range. Good lap time for Jason Gracias. James Arella now slotting into second in the number 13 as we look at the fifth place driver. Jamar Dumas working off of turn number 4, trying to pick up a little bit of time here in his Stay Tuned Sports Ford Mustang. The number 28 does not look like he's going to pick up any time. He will grind it to a halt. And as I say that, Bob Philip Scott able to get his first real-time lap and got to reset the number 99 Ford. And he's going to jump himself up into fourth as we see Tristan Thuggy Maher jump up now to the front row. Bear with me 1 second, folks. It seems like for some reason, maybe I have lost some of these outputs. Seems like Bob, the chat for letting me know. Let me see if I got Bob now. Bob, try talking. Let me see if I have you now.
See if this one is going to be working for
There
us
you go.
here.
All I had to, my software. All I had to do was restart my software. That's a weird one. Sorry about that, folks. Just all I had to do was click one button. I didn't even have to change an input or output or anything. But Bob, welcome to the InTOXIKated Gaming 146.3. At least
Glad to be here.
I think you're gonna have to go back through the point standing situation because I still can't pull it up on my end. I don't know what's going on.
Sure, we'll take a look here at the point standings. Jason Gracias right now has about a 20-point lead over second place Bill Edwards. Tristan Thuggy Maher currently in third, 43 points behind Gracias. And then everyone else, Jamar Dumas, 59 points behind in fourth. Philip Scott in fifth, 60 points behind. So there's a pretty good battle right now for third. But right now, Jason Gracias, the points leader. Sixth place is the 97 Mike Floppy Tellier, Vincent Valvano seventh, Jeff Price eighth, Andrew Beach in ninth, and James Lorello rounds out the top 10 in points. That's where the stage or the playoff drivers are. But a pretty good battle for 11th between Robert Tripp and Garrett Gleason. Only about 7 points separates those two competitors, so a pretty good battle for the best of the rest as well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, out there, qualifying has wrapped up. Jake Bustos and the number 74 Bridesmaid Bustos looking for his first win of the season here tonight. Jason Gracias in the number 1 will be rolling off to his outside. Tristan Thuggy Maher, David Duran Jr. on row number 2, James Arello and Philip Scott on row number 3. Bill Edwards, who needs a big night here to try and knock off Jason Gracias off the top point in the point standings. He will start 7th alongside Jamar Dumas. Robert Tripp, Mint Chocolate Tripp, as we called him 2 weeks ago at Dover. Garrett Gleason will be alongside him in 10th. Mike Tellier, Steven Doziak Jr., 11th and 12th. And then on row number 7, we got Vincent Valvano and Jason Schue rounding out our 14-car grid here for the Intoxicated Gaming 146.3. And Bob, super speedway action, but not really super speedway action here tonight at this racetrack, as we're just waiting on our pole sitter to work his way out onto the starting grid so we can get that iRacing.com pace car moving here at the front of the field. There we go. Jake Bustos there just popping in. Bob, let's bring up the weather situation here for tonight's race.
Yeah, definitely taking a look at the weather for tonight's race as I'm able to get this pulled up. And the weather conditions got some pretty mostly cloudy skies right there. 91 degrees in the air, 122 degrees in the track. Not a whole lot of wind, only about 2-mile-an-hour wind. So these drivers are they're going to deal with a hot, slick, not a whole lot of grip out there on the track as well. So these drivers are certainly going to be fighting quite a bit. Just to keep A, their car underneath them, but B, to keep the tires on these things as well as this race goes on. And it's looking like it might start getting hotter as well. So it's a Sunday, it's at 1 o'clock, so we're still going to be pretty warm by the time this race wraps up.
Yeah, we are going to be a little bit toasty. I've heard from a couple of the drivers that this is a pretty difficult racetrack to handle with this current tire model with the current Cup cars, so we'll keep our eyes on that as the iRacing.com pace car about to head down onto pit road. Race will be in the hands of Jake Bustos as we're about to get the Intoxicated Gaming 146.3 underway. Bob, we're green flag, and it's not a good start for the number 74.
Yeah, definitely not a great start for Bustos there, as the one of Jason Grossi is able to get a great jump on him. He's going to lead the field through turns 1 and 2, side by side, just a little bit further back in the pack. That's a good battle for third between David Duran and the 17 of Tristan Thuggy Maher. And looks like they're going to get themselves organized here as they drive through 3 and 4.
Gracias looking to lead lap number 1. Meanwhile, back behind them, a little bit of a wiggle. I think that was out of Bill Edwards in the Jessa number 50. If you weren't with us 2 weeks ago at the Dover International Speedway, well, we got a little bit of a cool thing happening right now, the Total Nonstop Racing League, with a couple of the cars painted by Garrett Gleason's tots, not necessarily Scott's tots, if you know that reference. Oh, Bill Edwards having a little bit of connection issues. But Garrett Gleason's couple of kids in one of the classes that he helps out with painted up a couple of paint schemes, and some of those paint schemes are out there on the racetrack right now, one of those being the number 74 of Jake Bustos you see there on the right-hand side of your screen. I think that's the Cali painted number 74, but at least right now it is the MaxGraphics.co painted number 1 of Jason Gracias out front with the flames. And you and I know, Bob, that flames are fast.
Absolutely. I mean, flames add an additional 10 to 15 horsepower at least. So there's no wonder that not only is Gracias leading in points, but he's also leading in tonight's race.
A little bit further back, a little bit of action here. Philip Scott racing with the number 17 of Tristan Thuggy Maher. They get things settled out. You have to go back to the number 55, Steven Doziak Jr. First side-by-side battle. As you see right behind him, that's the number 35 of Robert Tripp in not the mint chocolate Tripp scheme this week, sporting the Robbie Gordon throwback Jim Beam machine that I used to run myself back in the day in various NASCAR Racing 2003 season leagues. So great to see that Jim Beam machine out there heading off into turn number 1. He is running in the 11th position and already lost 2 spots. Might lose another one here to Garrett Gleason. And I think that's the Sophia number 7 machine, another one of those schemes painted by that class. That's the number 7 able to work his way on by and almost into the top 10. Gleason now up into 11th, but you're not missing a whole lot up front as Jason Grossi is continuing to lead the way, although just about 0.2 of a second over that number 74 right back behind him.
Yeah, good battle there so far between these two drivers, starting to pull away just a tad. But right now, everyone kind of single file, still feeling out their cars. 110 laps here tonight. And, like we said at the start of this broadcast, it's hot, it's slick. So these drivers definitely being a little more cautious here in the beginning, just to kind of get a feel of how their car is going to run. Stage break coming here at the end of lap 25. So, we're going to get a caution for these guys to kind of say, okay, had my first run with the car. This is how I feel. What can I do differently? And kind of plan your race out as it goes along.
Yeah, you have to plan out that race. So we've seen in recent weeks here in the Total Nonstop Racing League, a couple of drivers, really go out really quick, kind of like tortoise in the hare situation. The hare gets out front and burns up the tires and then starts sliding back. So hopefully we don't see any of that here tonight out of any of our front runners. But for Jason Gracias, he has led the opening 7 laps here, only 110 on the scorecard here tonight. I do want to make mention, though, that we do have a stage caution that will come out here tonight. And, of course, at that stage caution, we will give out 8 bonus points to the winner of the stage, 7 points for second, 6 for third, all the way on back to 8th spot. That gets 1 point when the stage caution falls. And that stage caution here tonight, Bob, coming out on lap number 25, at the completion of lap 25, I should say. So these drivers will have that in the back of their mind as this green flag run continues on.
Yeah, definitely. I don't expect these drivers to push the issue all that much, especially knowing that there's going to be a yellow coming out within the next 15, 16 laps or so. So I think right now it's going to be a matter of these guys just kind of feeling the car out. How is the heat affecting the tires, affecting the car in general? How much grip is out there? There's just a lot of those kind of questions that the drivers are going to have to answer themselves here in this first round.
Yeah, these drivers trying to sort things out amongst themselves. Let's go back to Mr. InTOXIKated Gaming himself. That is, of course, Mike Floppy Tellier. He usually runs an InTOXIKated Gaming, has run an InTOXIKated Gaming scheme in the past, but that number 97 trying to work his way around Bill Edwards, who, Bobby, you have to say, is not having a great start to the race here tonight. That number 50 has lost 1 spot since the drop the green flag, and losing any positions in this opening stage could be very beneficial for Jason Gracias, because Edwards losing those bonus points as we move towards lap number 25, at least when that caution flag does fall. We'll see if Edwards can start to make that charge up to the front to try and minimize the impact of not finishing all 12. At least it doesn't look like that, as we'll be halfway in stage number 1. Only 1 stage here in the Total Nonstop Racing League. If you're just now joining us for the first time this season, they have 1 stage, and around the first third of the race, then after that, it is a slugfest to the finish. It's Bill Edwards still suffering some connection issues there. We saw that, I think, on lap number 2 here tonight. So he might fall into the clutches of Steven Doziak as well. And Bob, this is a racetrack, at least personally, I've never been a big fan of this racetrack. I've never been a big fan of this racetrack. It's so flat. It's kind of an odd length, 1.33 miles in total length. Definitely not the racetrack that I absolutely love, as looks like Bill Edwards now making a move to the outside of the 97 of Tellier, as Tellier looks like he got tied up off the corner. And that's what I wanted to mention. It's such a flat racetrack. It's very easy to get tight, but it's also very easy to carry maybe a little bit too much momentum into the corner, get the back end loose. So this racetrack it's kind of a finicky one. I don't know if I personally like it, but that's one of the things about this racetrack. Some people love it. Some people, like myself, not a big fan.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of in that camp that's right there in the middle, where I like the fact that it's hard. The corners are so deceptive, because when you're out there on the track, it really feels like a 1.5 mile racetrack, like you would see at Las Vegas or, Charlotte or Kansas or something like that, where it's that D-shaped oval, and you kind of get almost suckered into driving into the corner a lot deeper than you probably should, because you expect the radius of the corner to be a little bit wider, and you're going to be able to carry a little more speed. So you drive in a little bit too deep. You really scrub off that right front tire. You put a lot of heat into it. and it's so easy to overdrive because it's, fairly or less banked than you would kind of expect it to be with the tighter corners. And you'll see drivers just get a little bit out of shape coming out of the corner, hitting the wall, driving in too deep, sliding up in the middle of the corner. So there definitely takes a special skill set to get around this track quickly. And it can be tough to manage, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think in the last 3 laps, we have seen basically everything you just described, as Bill Edwards was finally able to get around Tellier, but he did so by kind of pushing up the racetrack a little bit in the corner. Tellier had to react, and he drove up the racetrack, and to avoid that contact, Edwards takes that spot, but definitely tight on entry for the number 50. Let's jump up a little bit closer to the front. Here is James Arello side by side with the number 99 of Philip Scott. Scott started this race back in the 6th position, and if he can complete this pass, he will do so here. That is 3 spots gained for the number 99. That's a really good start for the World Ninja League machine. In fact, only one driver, Steven Doziak Jr., has picked up more positions since where they qualified. So far, so good for the number 99 machine. Let's look back at David Durand. Ooh, might have caught the wall there up off the corner. If he didn't catch the wall, he definitely scrubbed a ton of speed up off the corner because he was tucked up behind the number 17 of Tristan Maher. And now here comes Bill Edwards into the mix. Definitely lost about a full second or so that last time by in the Valvoline number 5. He'll try and pick that up here as we move towards our stage caution in just about 7 laps from now.
Yeah, that was a tough break. I'm not sure if he got into the wall or he just got super tight coming out of 4 there. But I mean, that, like we were just saying, Peter, that coming out of corner 4 is very tough on these drivers. And if you just hit it the wrong angle, you get in the gas too soon, you're going to wash right up the racetrack. And that's what just happened there as he lets the 50 of Bill Edwards go by him.
So he will complete that pass. Meanwhile, behind him, a couple of drivers battling for that last point for the stage bonuses. And right now, Tellier has it, but the number 55 is Steven Doziak Jr. wants it. He's just lurking in the background. So looks like for now, Tellier will hold on to that spot as we just have 5 laps now until stage caution number 1 here tonight on 3WTV. Let's go check out the chat. Let's see who's hanging out here tonight. We got the Windsors in the chat. Johnny Williams saying good luck all. Hello to the booth, Johnny. Heard that you might have the flu, buddy. Get to feeling better. Hopefully we can have you on the racetrack for next week because, Bob, next week is the season finale here for the 3WTV Cup Series here. Definitely going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out once the championship is all over. And oh my goodness, I have the Racer Hub. It is back for me, Bob, as they got a little bit side-by-side back behind. Jamar Dumas and the 55, Steven Doziak side-by-side. But next week, we round out our championship, and it is definitely going to be at one of my favorite racetracks that we go to. And that, of course, coming at the Homestead Miami Speedway. I think that's where NASCAR should really end the championship still today. They don't, but I think they should because it puts on one heck of a race every time NASCAR goes there. Here's a side-by-side battle. Currently for the 4th position, Tristan Thuggy Maher looking to the outside of James Lorello. Lorello lost the 3rd spot just about 3 or 4 laps ago to the number 99 of Philip Scott, who has just pulled away. Philip now trying to run down Jake Bustos for the stage caution. No one catching Jason Gracias. He's out front by 2.6 seconds. Really looking really strong. Is our points leader, the number 1 machine. But looks like Maher, can he complete the pass? Not quite here, Bob.
Can't quite get it done there. They're side by side. And this is so tough to do here at this track, Peter. We already, said it a million times, but just being side by side like that and the way aero affects these race cars is, you take a little bit of air off the guy next to you, you'll, wind up slowing yourself down, you slow the guy next to you down. So it's very difficult here, and, not really 2 grooves. There kind of is, but kind of isn't. And, it's a tough battle for sure.
Garrett Gleason back here just lost a little bit of time. Not sure what happened there, but he got passed by Jason Schue. So Gleason drops down to 14th. Meanwhile, we will see the stage caution this time by his. Did Maher clip the wall there? I don't know, but if he didn't, that was mighty close off of turn number 4. The caution flag will wave when, I was about to say, when Tellier crosses the line, but the yellow came out just as I said that. So Tellier in that number 97 picking up our last point. But interesting to note here, Bob, that Jason Gracias picks up the 8 bonus points for winning the stage. Bill Edwards only picking up 3 bonus points for finishing down in 6th. So that is an additional 5-point gap between the number 1 and the number 50 in the points tally. And that could be big when all is said and done next week at Homestead, Miami.
Absolutely. And, we were mentioning that Bill was starting to fall back a little bit. I know that's typically been his MO, just to kind of fall back a little bit, save tires early in the run. And, I kind of like that mindset where you just say, all right, I'll let these guys go past. I'm going to save my tires because I know at the end of the race, I'll have that advantage and I'll be able to pass back up through the field and, be able to hold on to it. So part of me kind of thinks he was falling back because of that. But at the same time, you also kind of got a points race here with this. It's difficult to gain points here in this Total Nonstop Racing League. And that's kind of what happened there. Just Gracias picked up 5 more points than Edwards. And those are big 5 points with a race and a half to go.
The leader is all on pit road to get a fresh set of virtual Goodyear rubber. The number 1 machine, Jason Gracias leading him down. Jake Bustos there, second driver on pit road. Good look of the Nashville Superspeedway front stretch as well. You see all those grandstands all nice and full. Bob, I think some of those grandstands some of them may have been removed now for the NASCAR Cup Series, but nonetheless, looks like Gracias is going to win the race off pit road over Bustos, Philip Scott, Tristan Maher, and Bill Edwards, gaining a couple of spots. Big loser on pit road. You saw him right there at the back. That is the number 13 machine. There he is, of James Lorello, who lost a couple of spots. I wonder if he was trying to get some damage repaired or maybe just missed his pit stall or something. But unfortunately for Lorello, he's going to drop from about 5th back down to 10th. So a little bit of work to do when we go back green here momentarily.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of work to do. He looked fast there in the beginning of that race. And right now he's sitting back in 4th, started P5, but, or at least was 4th before pit stops came in. So, he's moved back now into 10th. He's got a bit of a ways to go ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of work to do. Now, I'm unsure why it's still saying Jason Gracias is on pit lane there on the left side of the ticker. I can promise you he's not. He's right there on your screen. Hopefully that fixes itself. And it did update the software that does the graphics just before the race. Who knows? Maybe it's a bug. We'll figure it out. But, folks, if it continues to say pit, don't worry. Jason Gracias is not on pit lane. He is currently our race leader. Jake Bustos in 2nd. Philip Scott, Tristan Maher, top 4. Mike Floppy Tellier, Bill Edwards, 5th and 6th. David Duran, Stephen Doziak, James Arrell, Jamar Dumas, top 10. Then Robert Tripp, Garrett Gleason, Vincent Valvano, Jason Schue, rounding out our field. Jason is hurrying to catch back up with the field. There he is. He came back onto pit road. You see a little bit of right front damage on the number 3. Likely he came back down onto pit lane to try and get some additional damage fixed. But the iRacing pace car here working its way through turn number 3 and 4. And Bob, we're about to go green flag for the second time here tonight. For those wondering at home, only 1 caution so far, and it has been the stage caution, but no more stage cautions left here tonight. We could go green flag to the end of the race coming down. Bill Edwards having a little bit of connection issue, and that's going to stack up the inside line as Philip Scott able to kind of get a little gap between himself and Bill Edwards, but Jason Gracias gets a gap between himself and everyone else as we head towards turn number 1 and 2.
A great jump there by Philip Scott, able to get ahead of Jake Bustos. That's the second time Bustos started there on the front row, but lost a couple of spots on the initial start. He was able to gain them back just a little bit, but he's hot on the back bumper. of the 99 of Philip Scott. A little bit further back here in the pack, side by side, that's the 97 of Mike Floppy Tellier on the inside. Bill Edwards there on his outside. You can fit these 5 drivers all under a blanket as they're getting tight here into turn number 1.
Yeah, this is where the action, the side-by-side action currently is out there on the racetrack, as Edwards got passed there by Steven Oziak Jr., still having those connection issues that we've been seeing here tonight, unfortunately. Looks like back behind him, single file now, as James Arello tries to recover from that pit road issue. Still unsure exactly what that issue was, but the number 13 has worked his way back up into 8th. Jason Gracias out front. Folks, I promise he's not on pit road. Let me see if I can update the graphic. Did that do anything? Nope. Still saying he's on pit road. So not sure what is up with that. Hopefully it resets itself at some point. It's something that I am unable to manually change myself. So just ignore that. Hopefully we get another update to the software and it fixes all the bugs. Maybe it's a bug with this one racetrack itself, just not 100% sure, but Gracias is out front by 0.3 of a second over Philip Scott, who with that good restart was able to get himself now up into 2nd. And Bob, we talk about Philip Scott here so far this season. Philip has not had the chase that he wanted. 60 points back entering into tonight, trying to leapfrog Jamar Dumas, trying to catch up to Tristan Maher. It's probably a little bit of a stretch for him to catch Jason Gracias in the point standing sides of things, but I know Philip Scott wants to finish on the podium, at least on the point standing side of things. He can definitely do it. Tristan Maher just 17 markers in front of Philip entering into tonight, but right now that number 99 does look good, and I was mentioning earlier, he started in 6th, now running in 2nd, so he's definitely finding some race pace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this season, just looking at his stats, 12 starts, 9 top 10s, 8 top 5s. So the majority of the races, he's up there in top 5, in contention for the win. He's got 1 win on the season, and one of the few drivers with not all that many incidents, 31 incidents the entire season. So, good to see him racing clean out there. And, just this chase has not been friendly to him, and it's tough.
In fact, let's talk about incident points, because, we mention them occasionally to all the folks back home, say, so-and-so got an incident point. Incident points, if you're not familiar with the way they work in the iRacing.com simulator, well, you have a 0 incident point incident. I'll explain that in a second. You get a 1 incident point incident, a 2 incident point incident, and then a 4 incident point incident. If you have a 0 incident point, it kind of just means you bounced it off the wall. You just kind of scraped the wall. You didn't do anything egregious. Some road courses you can get a 0x if you go, that's what they call it, a 0x. If you go off the racetrack, off the racing line. But for the most part, on ovals, it's when you scrape the wall. Now, a 1 incident point incident is when you hit the wall a little bit harder than you should, or you go off the racetrack. 2 times incident points is if you lose control of your car, and then a 4 incident point incident is if you actually make car contact with another vehicle out there. Something that is hard enough to damage a vehicle. It doesn't always work perfectly, but that's how it's supposed to work. So if you wreck another car, you get 4 incident points. If you get wrecked, well, you still get 4 incident points. It doesn't discriminate who does the wrecking and who does the spinning, but that's kind of probably one of the downsides of iRacing is it doesn't discriminate in that area. It doesn't assign blame to different drivers. That is, of course, up to the Total Nonstop Racing League officials to assign blame as needed when there is an accident out there on the racetrack. But nonetheless, the software we have takes a tally across the entire year of who has the most incident points. Now let's talk about who has the most incident points, because currently we have several drivers, I think by my count 6 drivers have started every race this season. Bill Edwards, Tristan Maher, Mike Tellier, Vincent Valvano, Robert Tripp, and Garrett Gleason. Congratulations to those drivers who so far started every race so far this season. They're all here tonight, so that will continue on. Entering into tonight, Mike Floppy Tellier had the most incident points. He has 79 incident points to his name. Now, if I'm a betting man, I would say a lot of those incident points came at Sonoma, and I just looked, and sure enough, 27 of Tellier's 79 came at Sonoma, the road course. But Tellier has the most. But then you talk about the drivers who have the fewest. And Bill Edwards, he's only got 37 incident points in 15 races. Then you have Jason Schue, Jason Gracias, both of those drivers, only 35 incident points. Then you got Jamar Dumas, only 25 incident points throughout the season. Andrew Beach, only 24 incident points. He has 11 starts so far this season. And the crazy thing about that, Bob, is we talk about that road course race and say, oh, Mike Floppy Tellier got 27 incident points at Sonoma. That's more incident points in one race than Andrew Beach has got all season long.
Yeah.
in his 11 starts. So, road courses are hard. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I actually looked up my incident points. I somehow have 14, and I would venture to say the majority of those 14 were at Sonoma as well, because I think I had a 0x race when I raced at Charlotte. Same with Pocono. I think I got caught up in an incident in Talladega, so that might have been some of it. But, it's definitely one of those things where I think iRacing does a good job at policing it. Maybe it's a little tougher on the official racing when you're, not racing in a league or anything like that. But here in the TNR, they have those incident points there. We have our league admins who look at the points and look at, the actual incidents on track, and we kind of self-govern, and that's pretty great there.
Yeah, and just looking at it, I have one start. I have 10 incident points this season. So, you do the math on that one. But meanwhile, a little bit further back, battle back here, Steven Oziak Jr. has got around Tristan Maher. Maher has actually been falling back a little bit. Remember, he was in the top 5 a little while ago, definitely struggling to get this set of tires to work out for the Eclipse Photography Ford Mustang. He's heading down the backstretch here. Currently 4.3 seconds or so behind Jason Gracias, who's still out front by a half second on Philip Scott, who continues to run right where he was. Jake Bustos has fallen back to third, about 2.8 seconds off the race lead. Then you have James Dorello, Mike Floppy Tellier in 97 up there in fifth, trying to do his brand proud here in the InTOXIKated Gaming 146.3. That's, of course, that extra 0.3 is due to the fact that this racetrack is a 1.3 mile racetrack, a little bit unlike any other racetrack on the schedule. As Steven Oziak Jr. and Tristan Maher continue to go side by side for this spot. Maher trying to gain that spot back here from the 55. Looks like he might be able to do it. I think he's going to clear him right here through the center of 1 and 2, and does. So good job there, Tristan. We'll see if he's able to climb up that leaderboard as this run continues to go on. But if you're just now joining us here on 3WTV, I want to thank you for stopping on by. Just one caution flag in the opening 47 laps here tonight at the Nashville Super Speedway. Did you see that, Bob? Looks like Thuggy might have just caught the wall off turn 4.
Little bit tight there. Might have scraped up against that wall just a little bit, but looks like his car is no worse for wear, and he should be continuing on. He's actually gaining a bit of time there on the 50 of Bill Edwards.
Just making that car a little bit narrower. That's how you do it. Just shrink it up a little bit.
It's like the old Cup car where the pit crew would body check the car, just put a little dent in there and, shorten it up a little bit.
Flatten out the side, give it a little bit more side force. If you're Bill Elliott, just make the car a couple inches narrower. That's, of course, how Bill Elliott was dominant back in the day at Talladega Super Speedway, is they would actually make the car narrower. It still fit all the templates and all that stuff, that they had back in the 80s. Granted, they didn't have a whole lot, but finally people caught wind of the fact that Elliott's car was a little bit narrower than everyone else's, and that quickly got banned, and they regulated the width of the cars. Yeah, once upon a time, that was not regulated, folks. You could kind of do what you wanted. NASCAR was a little bit of a ground of finding the gray area, and slowly but surely they're working out the gray area. Now you have parts that you absolutely can't tinker with. We've seen a couple of real-life NASCAR teams fall foul of that. But, talking about that, Bob, Total Nonstop Racing League is a fixed setup league. So, like in real life, where you have kind of a fixed body, you can't do a whole lot of tweaks to the body. Well, here in iRacing.com Motorsport Simulation, we actually take it one step further. We actually limit the settings that these drivers can use for their suspension, tire pressure, quite a few other little things here and there, but all these drivers have the same setup. They all have essentially the same car, with the exception of two things. They can actually adjust their brake bias, and they can adjust their steering ratios to kind of help them drive, but everything else is identical, one car to another. So these drivers have to manage that with their talent. But unfortunately for the number 97, might have run out a little bit of talent as he lost a couple of spots there. He's going to drop down to the 7th position, losing out to Bill Edwards and Tristan Thuggy-Maher.
And I'm getting some little bit of driver chatter. The 13 of James Lorello may be coming down pit road this time by, and here he is. So a little bit of strategy here with about 70 or 60 some odd laps to go. James Lorello coming down. Looks like you can do between 60 to 70 some odd laps on a tank of fuel here. So, yeah, this might be starting to get close to money stop time, coming in early, short pitting, and hoping to run some fast laps at the end of the night.
As we get a great look there of the infield. But yeah, I'm curious to know if that is a strategy call, or whether Lorello has maybe something else that's popped up. I know he's got a young daughter, Elizabeth Lorello, who races in real life, but I'm not sure if something's happened or whether that is a pure strategy call, and I think that's our answer. It is a pure strategy call. So interesting to see this out of Lorello as he hustles to get back out there onto the racing surface. If you're thinking about fall off, there you at the top of the screen, you can see these drivers' last lap. A couple of these drivers running 32.2 second laps or so. Let's kind of change that. Let's bring up at the top of the screen the best lap these drivers have seen tonight, and you're seeing 30.6, 30.9. These drivers are about 1.6 seconds slower than the fastest laps they've run here tonight, Bob. That's pretty significant tire fall off. But now Lorello, he'll be out there on fresh tires. He'll be able to eat up the racetrack, turn those fast laps in the Silent Syndicate Racing Chevrolet. He is currently being scored one lap down. Of course, if a caution flag was to come out, he would get himself back on the lead lap. But Steven Doziak Jr. says, you know what, I'm going to try this strategy as well, as the Fruit Stripe Chevrolet Camaro heads on to pit lane this time. Looks like Robert Tripp also coming on to pit lane. So the number 35 coming down at pit road speed. But let's see, race leader Jason Gracia still looking to stay out, as we last time by made it to the halfway mark.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I kind of like the strategy of these guys coming down to pit now. They're going to get fresh tires. They're going to be able to make up a whole bunch of time. I know me personally, I would probably stay out a few more laps, maybe come in around 65 or so, just so I could have a little fresher tires till the end, depending on how the car handles, because, you know, older tires, you're going to be a lot tighter, you're going to slide up the track, you're going to get a lot slower, and I would kind of want to balance out my run to kind of split halfway between now and the end of the race, just so I can have a little fresher tires towards the end of the race compared to everyone else. But a lot of differing strategies out there, and we'll see who has the better strategy in about 62 laps.
Yeah, let's talk about that just a little bit here, Bob, because you talk about splitting kind of up your runs. The field was first on pit road on lap number 27. That was, of course, under our stage caution that flew on lap number 26. So they all came down pit road on lap number 27. That put them at 84 laps to go, if my math is correct. So 84, I would have divided it by 2, down to 42 laps to go. And so that's kind of when I would personally have come down to pit. Of course, 42 laps to go would get me to, let's say, lap number 68, 69 or so, somewhere in that range. So we'll see whether or not we see more drivers on pit road in about 10 laps from now. That's when I would do it. I'm not always right. Of course, we up here in the booth, folks, if you've been with us all season long here in the 3WTV Cup Series, you know that we're not always right, but that's kind of when I try and make my move down pit road. Sounds like you too, Bob. So we'll see whether or not the leaders are in that boat, or whether or not they have some different strategy in mind as we get a good look here, riding on board with Tristan Thuggy Meyer as he tries to hustle the Eclipse Photography Ford Mustang up off of turn number 4. Trying to run down Bill Edwards, currently sitting in the 4th and 5th positions as they run here in the InTOXIKated Gaming 146.3.
Yeah, and some interesting lines there by both the 17 and the 50, just trying to get as much clean air as possible on the nose. This time by, the 50 takes the low line, the 17 goes a little bit higher and kind of cuts down, almost diamonding the corner to give himself a little bit of a better run off the corner. Just some differing strategies there as well, just to kind of get fresh air on the car, under the car. These cars have a diffuser in the back that helps with some ground downforce, and a little bit of a gap in the front that forces the car, or the air, basically through a channel underneath the car. And someone who has much better experience with aerodynamics would know a lot better of what it does, but it essentially creates downforce by sucking the car down on the track, and gives you a little more grip and keeps you more planted into the ground.
Yeah, downforce can be very, very important here, especially on these racetracks that are very, very flat, and you're having to keep your speed up as much as you can and really manage the mechanical grip as well as the downforce grip that the car has, as well as just the overall tire grip that your tires have underneath you. So these drivers here trying to manage that as the lap count continues to tick on. Like I said, we expect to see a couple more drivers on pit road here shortly. Jason Schue has elected to come down pit road in his number 3. I believe Garrett Gleason also has come down in the number 7 to make his green flag pit stop. Stephen Doziak Jr. in number 55 pitted a couple of laps ago as well. As I say that, here comes Jamar Dumas, the Stay Tuned Sports number 28, onto pit road. We'll come down to see his pit crew. So he was up there inside the top 10. But for right now, Rossi is continuing to click off laps up to a 1.25 second lead over Philip Scott. Jake Bustos another several seconds back behind them. Then you have Bill Edwards about 3 seconds or so behind Bustos. Got Tristan Maher hot on his heels. Then about 3.5 seconds back to Mike Floppy Tellier. Another 1.5 seconds or so back to Vincent Valvano as, I thought that number 1 was about to head down pit road there. But nope, not this time. Continues to stay out there as we close in on the lap number 69. Like we said, would be kind of the halfway mark in this green flag run to make it to the end of the race on just one more stop.
Yeah, and Peter, if you're a James Lorello fan, just a couple laps ago, he went by and powered around the one of Gracias and got his lap back. So we can move James Lorello back up on the lead lap. And, well, I just thought he was coming down pit road as well, just very slow through 3 and 4, and right on that yellow line. Almost made it look like he was pitting, but didn't hear any radio chatter yet from anyone else jumping down pit road.
Just looking at lap times, we talked about fall off. The drivers have fallen off about another 0.3 of a second, 3 to 0.4 of a second from the last time we talked about it. So right now, just about 2 seconds slower than their fastest lap of the race. And you see Jason Schue there in the number 3. He's now hounding down the number 1, trying to get one of his 2 laps back. Garrett Gleason had a relatively long pit stop. Not sure what happened to the Zorse-powered number 7, but he was noticeably a couple seconds slower than most of the other drivers on pit road. Maybe got some damage repaired or something like that. Not 100% sure, but Garrett is the only driver currently being scored 2 laps down in the number 7. James Zarello's back on the lead lap, like you mentioned. Now, here's the interesting thing about James Zarello, Bob. We would talk about all this fall off. Well, Lorello's last time by ran a 31.7, so he's already fallen off about a full second from where he was at the beginning of his tire life. So when all the other leaders come back down pit road, it's going to kind of turn the table. All the leaders will now be faster. Here we go, lap number 69. I called it. Here comes the number 1 machine. Jason Gracias coming to his pit crew. A little bit of a lockup there just before the pit lane speed line. But I think he just about made it, as we'll hope to not see a penalty or anything like that. But Gracias will give the race lead, at least for right now, to the number 99 of Philip Scott, who's maybe thinking about coming down pit road this time.
Yeah, if I'm Philip, I'm coming down pit road now or within the next couple of laps, because he just saw Jason Gracias come down. A lot of the other leaders are coming in. You don't want to be stuck out there. We saw that with Jake Bustos a few weeks ago, where he was leading and just kind of basically dug his own grave. He stayed out way too long and just had to try to hold everyone off, and unfortunately couldn't do so. But with all that cycling around, that's your new leader, the sponsor of the race, the 97 of Mike Floppy Tellier.
Yeah, so Tellier out front, leading a lap here. We do expect to see him on pit road here shortly, as I think the entire field, believe it or not, has cycled through with the exception of Tellier in that number 97, as he runs a little bit higher up in the corner, gonna carve it back down to the inside. I was interested, Mike going way wide, just staying off the grass, able to get down to that pit lane cone. But I was about to say, Bob, it was interesting to see a couple different strategies to get onto pit road. You had Jason Gracias, who kind of let the car wash up high, just like Tellier did, and then he arced it back down low. Then you had, notably, the number 99 of Philip Scott, who kind of got down there on the apron, dragged the brake, and kind of hooked that inside line. Now, he did have the number 55 machine of Steven Doziak right back behind him when he did so. Maybe that was kind of in the back of his mind when he came down pit road. Didn't want to get run over, but looks like Tellier has come down pit road, and it's down and away, so that will cycle the entire field through here, as we expect to see these drivers good to go all the way to the checkered flag, unless, of course, we get another caution flag, and who knows what will happen here tonight before the checkered flag finally falls, and we find out who gets the dub here at Nashville Superspeedway.
Yeah, and at this point, it's still anybody's race. You see James Lorello there on the track. The 3 of Jason Schue actually trying to fight to get his second lap back. So Schue trying to get his get unlapped here, but James Lorello definitely got a little bit more speed in that 13 machine for now. Fresher tires are going to prevail here as Schue finally gets around him. But you know, Peter, mentioning getting down on pit road, it's so tough to get onto pit road here because the banking, although it's not as high as you would see on other racetracks, that banking as you're coming down across the turn could really upset the balance of the car, and you could easily spin out just trying to get on pit road because, you know, half your car is raised a little bit more than the car really wants to be, and next thing you know, you're going around.
Yeah, we got a battle, though, for position between Dave Durand, Jamar Dumas, and Bill Edwards. Now, the L number that you see right there on the bottom right of your screen, that is the lap that the drivers were on pit road. So David Durand pitted on lap number 64. Bill Edwards pitted on lap number 70. He was able to get past Jamar Dumas, who was on 7 lap older tires than he is. So we expect to see Bill Edwards slice his way on past David Durand here shortly, especially with the fresher tires on the Jessa designed number 50. At least, Jessa designed the car. There was a little bit of artistic interpretation to the paint scheme that we ultimately derived at, or ultimately arrived at, I should say, here in the TNR 3WTV Cup Series. But the number 50 will start to pull away, currently riding in the 7th position here. But right now, it seems like battles on the racetrack are a little bit scarce. So let's check on this one here. This is the number 74 of Jake Bustos, Tristan Thuggy Maher behind him. Bustos has 1 lap fresher tires in this battle, so that's a little bit of an advantage. And he's also got the track position, trying to take that downforce off the nose of Tristan Thuggy Maher. Seems like Maher has been in dirty air now for probably the last 20 or 30 laps. It always seems like he's tucked up behind someone's rear spoiler.
Peter, breaking news. Looks like the 13 and the 55 both coming down pit road now. It sounds like a scheduled stop, as both of them casually got on the radio, said, "Oh, I'm pitting in." So we'll see how exactly this is going to affect things, as Jason Gracias will inherit the lead.
Interesting call there. The one extra pit stop strategy, I've only ever seen it really work once, and that was at Milwaukee Mile that we didn't broadcast here on 3WTV, but it was a race that I raced in at the Milwaukee Mile, where the tire fall off was on the order of 2 to 2.5 seconds. Now, we highlighted that it's about 2 seconds here tonight, but that pit lane here is excruciatingly long. Pit lane time here of about 46 seconds. So you think about that, Bob. That's 46 seconds pit lane time. That doesn't include the amount of time you lose getting onto pit road and the amount of time you lose getting off pit road, because of course you have to use the access road all the way until you're on the backstretch here at Nashville Superspeedway. So you couple in the time you lose on pit road with the time you lose entering, the time you lose exiting. That's got to be on the order of about 52 seconds. Now, Lorello has to make that up. He has to make up all that time. Same thing with Steven Doziak Jr., as you see Garrett Gleason fall 1 lap down to our race leader, Jason Gracias. So the big question is, can the 13 of Lorello make that up? I'm just kind of looking kind of on my live timing and scoring on my end. He's 36 seconds behind. So that's more than a lap, with these drivers running about 31-second laps. But Lorello has to somehow find 36 seconds. And the bad news is, Bob, we only got 30 laps to go. So he's going to have to average over a second faster per lap if he wants to win the race tonight. But Lorello throwing the dice here in the 3WTV Cup.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting strategy call. I don't know if that one is really going to work. Yes, he was the fastest car on track that time ran a 30.7, whereas Gracias ran a 31.2, so about a half-second difference. I don't know if he's going to have enough time to pick things up. I mean, Lorello might be a little bit faster now, and Gracias might fall off a little bit now, but I don't know if he's really going to have that time to scratch and claw his way back up.
Only time will tell. We'll see if Lorello is able to run down a couple of the other drivers in front of him. Of course, you have to think about Jamar Dumas. Let's just put 8th. I think I'm going to put 8th as my kind of my spot where I think Lorello's going to get up to as he gets past Garrett Gleason. We'll see. And we'll ask the chat, 3WTV chat. We've got a couple of people here watching with us here tonight. We got Ryder Lee Angle in the chat. Ryder, how's it going? Hopefully you are having a good night. Thank you for tuning in, as always, rooting on the World Ninja League machine of Philip Scott, who currently rides in the 2nd spot. Tristan Maher in 3rd, Jake Bustos 4th, and Bill Edwards in 5th. But in the chat, what do you think? Do you think Lorello is going to finish higher or lower than the 8th position, or do you think the house is going to win? Only time will tell, as we're down to now just 26 laps to go left in tonight's race. It has gone by in a hurry. If you're just now joining us, only one caution flag, the stage caution. But really, Bob, no cautions for cause here at the Nashville Superspeedway tonight.
And, with that, Peter, I'm a little bit surprised, only because how tight this track can get, especially off of turn number 4, and with how hot and slick it is as well. I'm a little bit surprised that there weren't any other cautions for car contact, because things can get really, really tight here, and I'm just surprised, to be honest with you.
We just saw a pass for position between Vincent Valvano and Jamar Dumas. Valvano in the number 64. Just looking at it, 7-lap fresher tires, so that is going to aid Valvano pull away from Dumas. James Arello just picked up another spot. He's now 26 seconds behind the race leader. So at this moment in time, Bob, he is picking up more than a second a lap. He's just going to have to continue to do that for the next 24 laps. And you and I know these tires do start to plateau. They do start to kind of get into a point where they don't lose time quite as quick as they do when they're fresh. That's first couple of laps. You go out there and you lose about a half second of pace per lap in the first 3 or 4 laps. It's pretty ridiculous. And then they kind of slow down, but we'll see if Lorello can continue to pick off that kind of 1+ second per lap range. He is right now 10 seconds behind Jamar Dumas, riding in 9th with 23 laps to go. Valvano just a little bit further up the road. Valvano, I believe, is closing in on David Durand, so that is something we'll keep our eyes on. But one battle to keep our eyes on is right here, Bob. I'm impressed. Tristan Thuggy Meyer, we saw him battling with Bill Edwards a little while ago. If I recall correctly. Maybe it was this battle. Because Maher's still battling here for the 3rd spot, as he's right behind Jake Bustos. These drivers didn't pit on the same lap. Bustos with the 1-lap fresher tires and the track position here. Definitely going to help him as this run continues to wear off.
And just taking a look the last time these drivers were on pit road, James Lorello 11 laps ago, Jason Gracias 20 laps ago, so only a 9-lap difference between those drivers. So I'm kind of thinking you're right, Peter. They might plateau fairly equally, with Lorello just having slightly better tires, but I don't think he's going to catch him, and I would take the under for the 8. I would say either 8th or 9th might be my my idea for where Lorello is going to finish with this.
Well, we will wait and see how it all shakes out. When the checker flag falls, David Durand still holding on to that 7th position over Vincent Valvano. About 0.6 of a second between the 5 and the number 64. Gracias continuing to pull away out at the front of the field. Up to about 5.5 seconds. Bustos another 3 seconds back. Then Maher, who appears to be losing ground now, almost a full second behind Bustos, since we have been watching them here on your screen. But Lorello, the good news is the number 13 Silent Syndicate Racing Machine just unlapped himself, so the number 13 is back on the lead lap, 5 seconds or so behind Jamar Dumas, and still about 8 seconds or so behind Vincent Valvano, who, if you were looking at the live timing and scoring board, well, you just noted that, oh, wow, that was a heavy hit. David Durand in the number 5 machine back, such a heavy hit. He had some connection problems there, but that was a good look at the turn 4 wall, and you can see that right front damage now as he works his way through turn 1 and 2.
Tough break there for Durand. I wouldn't be surprised if the front end is knocked out just a little bit with that hit. These toe arms, or toe links rather, for these cars are fairly fragile compared to the rest of the car, and that was a really, really hard hit. So, and well, I thought Durand was coming down pit road, but just looks like that angle makes all the cars want to come down pit road, looks like.
Yeah, that angle is a little deceiving, isn't it? It's just kind of like all of a sudden the race car kind of stops at that angle, and you're like, oh, it's coming down. Nope, never. Nope, just don't mind me. But don't mind us up here in the booth. I'll tell you what, it's been an eventful night here in the 3WTV Cup Series booth. The InTOXIKated Gaming 146.3. David Durand now trying to get the spot back from Vincent Valvano as Valvano runs a little bit wide. James Arello now closing in a little bit more, but I'm just looking at this 17 laps to go. Arello not picking up ground like he was about 10 laps ago. He's only picking up right now about a half second a lap on your race leader. he is picking up ground on the drivers in front of him. Let's see if we can bring up kind of the graphic to the gap from the 28 machine of Dumas to Lorello back behind him. And you can see that there bottom of your screen. Lorello is picking up a good chunk of change on Jamar Dumas per lap. The last time, another full second. So we do think that Lorello will surely get to Jamar Dumas, as he's about a second back behind. That will be a battle for position. And then he's got another couple seconds to get up in front of him. But speaking of up in front of him, Vincent Valvano and David Duran again side by side, as these two just can't really get away from one another here as we have 15 laps to go at Nashville.
Yeah, they've been practically glued into each other these last few laps. Just a great battle overall, good clean one as well. There's Valvano who's going to opt to take the low side. Duran trying to get some air on the front of his car. He's going to go high. And Duran has a little bit better of a run off of 2 just with the high side, but so far Valvano, shorter way around, is usually going to win. But as I say that, Duran getting a bit of a run off of 4. Hopefully he'll be able to keep it out of the wall. He does. He's going to try to do a little bit of a crossover move.
A little bit of crossover, not able to do it. So the number 64 continues to stay out front here. As I thought that Valvano way up the racetrack in the wall, right side damage to the Bagcraft Ford Mustang. I was just about to say I thought Valvano was going to scoot away from David Duran, but unfortunately he's given that back and then some. As you see Lorello there now creeping in the back of the shot. He's got around the number 28 machine of Jamar Dumas. So now let's see if we can pull up the graphic again and look how much. You'll see that 1.9 seconds. Valvano's big mistake that last lap cost him dearly, as Lorello now starting to move on in, and again Valvano getting close to that turn 2 wall.
It's getting to that point in the run, Peter, where these tires are not happy at all with these drivers, and they're just starting to give up a little bit more. You know, the car is going to be a lot tighter on exit, and oh man, it looked like Lorello might have gotten close to that wall as well. But, 12 laps to go. Vinny Valvano was last on pit road 29 laps ago. So starting to get a little older tires. These are the longest run these tires have been on, aside from the spot between green flag pit stops and the stage break. So some older tires. They're not very happy. They're probably heated up quite a bit. And they're going to be really just pushing into the wall each and every lap now.
Yeah, these tires are yelling, that's for sure. As we're down to just 10 more laps to go, Jamar Dumas, lowly down in 10th, has lost the sight now of the number 13 of James Lorello. So it looks like Dumas, unless there's a little bit more action here, is Lorello now looking underneath the number 64 of Valvano. He will take the spot. So move Lorello up into 8th as we have 10 laps to go, almost smacking the wall. 64 of Valvano trying to come back, maybe have a look to the inside, but just not quite close enough. As now Lorello's caught 7th spot. David Duran right in front of him. Now the big question is, I said I thought he would get up to about the 8th position. He's got David Duran in front of him. Duran, of course, has some right side damage from that heavy contact out of turn number 4 a couple laps ago. So I think that's going to help the number 13 pull off this pass here in the closing stages. We'll keep our eyes on this. Lorello showing a little bit of a nose to the inside, but Duran comes and cuts him off. Now down the backstretch, Lorello trying to get that strong run here. Bob not quite able to do so, although he's again showing a nose. He ducks back behind the numbers 5. A little bit of gamesmanship right now out of James Lorello as Duran slides up the racetrack, really pushes up the racetrack here. He overdrove turn number 3, and that's going to give Lorello the charge here.
Man, what a great move there by Lorello. But here comes Duran on the outside trying to battle back. Looked like Lorello just kind of gave the, all right, I'm going low. Oh, nope, no, I'm not. And just kind of forced Duran to drive up the racetrack there. And that was a great move by Lorello. But now we're going to see if Duran is going to be able to make a comeback here into turn 3. He's got Vinny Valvano behind him as well. So if I'm Valvano, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to push Duran, create a little bit of chaos. Hopefully Duran gets underneath the 13, and I'll be able to scoot in and keep that door open just as long as I can. But as we say that, Lorello just about checking out.
Yeah, Lorello is on the fresher tires, and he will not look back to these two drivers as we're down to just 6 laps to go for Jason Gracias, who continues to mow down the field. He's trying to put Jamar Dumas 1 lap down, will do so. So that gives us just 9 drivers on the lead lap now, with the last of which being Vincent Valvano. But Dumas, of course, if a caution flag was to come out, he would be the lucky dog recipient. But for right now, nothing doing for the number 28 machine, as no caution flags have waved since the stage caution that we had earlier here tonight. Garrett Gleason has taken the number 7 Zorse-powered machine to the garage, and I think the Zorses gave up the ghost a little bit there, Bob.
Break. Garrett was having a good run there, and he's in his own little points battle as well for the 11th place between he and Robert Tripp. Only a handful of points separate those two, so it's going to be a pretty big points day for Tripp as well. Try to extend that gap just a bit. So tough break for that Zorse-powered machine of Garrett Gleason.
Meanwhile, Bill Edwards has run down Tristan Thuggy Maher, just pulled off that pass a moment ago. So Edwards not quite looking at a podium, as he's about 5 seconds behind Jake Bustos. But Edwards doing a great job of running down Maher here late, although here comes Maher. Maher with a run back, trying to get that 4th position back from Edwards as they head off into turn number 3. Just when I thought this battle might be done with, the number 17 of Maher says, "Whoa, buddy, not so fast. I'm going to take it right back," as we're down to just 3 more laps to go.
Yeah, 3 laps to go, and that is one of the most nerve-wracking things as a driver. Is you see the car in front of you blinking, you get a good run on him, but then he disappears and you have no idea where he is, and you just kind of hope that he doesn't, pop up right in front of your car or inside of your car. And still, even when the blinking guy's behind you, it's still nerve-wracking as well, saying, all right, hopefully I'm there on his screen, he doesn't run me over. But a good job by both those drivers to navigate the connection issues there.
Yeah, those connection issues can be a pretty significant gremlin when you're racing tight with one another. Of course, iRacing has worked on the net code so that those blinks aren't as harmful as they used to be, but they definitely still can play havoc when you just can't see the car that you're racing around. But for right now, Tristan Maher has that 4th position as Jason Gracias goes across the start-finish line. White flag is in the air. He has caught the number 64, Vincent Valvano, who washes up the racetrack. That will put just 8 drivers on the lead lap. And man, I'll tell you what, Bob, that's a little bit of a mercy kill, putting a driver down a lap there right on the last lap. And I don't know. That's a little bit of maybe insult to injury. I don't know what you want to call it, but at least for right now, Gracias, our points leader, are going to come home and take the win.
Yeah, great win there for the one of Jason Gracias. Has absolutely come on fire as of late. He won last week at Dover, had a podium finish, or 2 weeks ago rather, had a podium finish the race before that. I feel like we've talked to Jason the most this entire season, and that's exactly why Gracias is leading the points right here.
Tristan Maher comes home and finishes in 4th in front of Bill Edwards, getting the better hand of that late race battle between those two. Good job, good clean racing all night long between everyone in the field. 14 starters and 13 finishers. Only Garrett Gleason, the only driver not to see it out all the way to the end. But for the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias, we've seen this before a couple of times this season. Make that win number 7 on the season, Bob. Very, very impressive. Gracias with 7 wins. Tristan Maher with 5 wins. I mean, those two drivers have combined to win now 12 of 16 races. I mean, how impressive is that?
Yeah, that is absolutely wild to think of, because it doesn't really feel like those two have dominated this whole season, because we saw so many other drivers up front. And I mean, now with the chase, yes, Gracias has been the best driver on the track, but that doesn't really feel that way, if that makes sense. Like seeing him up front like that in the chase rather has been great, but this whole season hasn't really felt like a Jason Gracias dominated season, just because the other drivers in here have put on fantastic show week in and week out.
Yeah, they have put on a great show week in and week out. Let's see if we can bring in, though, a couple of our top finishers here tonight. Bob, let's take it away with tonight's third place driver, Bridesmaid Bustos.
Yeah, I'm down here with our third place finisher, the 74 machine of Jake Bustos. And Jake, a good strong run. You started there on the pole, but just kind of had Gracias lead the whole race pretty much. Talk me through your race.
I don't know if you guys are tired of Jason winning, but I am. But yeah, we put it on pole. We had good short run speed, but I mean, I can't do anything with him. He got me on the start of the race, and that was it. I just looked at his bumper the whole time. Hats off to him. I think the beginning and middle of the run, he was just so much quicker than me that I think at the end I was maybe a tenth faster than him per lap, but it wasn't going to do anything to bring him back. And then when he pitted a lap before me, I knew that was it. I was trying to undercut him a lap to get that position on the track, but just wasn't meant to be. Philip was really good with tires today too. He got around me and I just couldn't reel him back in. So hats off to him on the second.
Yeah, and talking about tires there, it was a hot, slick track. I think the track temp at one point was 122 degrees. How hard was it to A, keep the car under you, but B, also save tires? I mean, hot, slick surface like this and an older surface, a concrete surface as well. What was it like there to just kind of keep the car underneath you?
It was weird. You were trying to back your pace up so that you could have a tire for the end, but it was just tough to pass, so you didn't want to give up the track position too. So you were kind of you were dancing that fine line the whole race, and it seemed to me that the line you wanted to be was kind of like a middle entry and then take a real late apex off to get that straight line. And then the downshift, I think downshifting earlier in the run helped because it put more wear on that right rear. That little 25 lap run we did before the stage break, I didn't shift until like 5 laps at the end of the run, and my right front was burnt up pretty bad. So it was definitely the tire savers went to the cream of the crop.
Next week, last race of the 2022 B season, Homestead, Miami. What are your thoughts about Homestead?
I absolutely hate Homestead. It's my least favorite track in the entire iRacing service. I think they should just bulldoze it over and put a casino there. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I have no expectations going into it. It's going to be a time. We're just going to salvage whatever we can get through there. I think I might have broke the record for top fives in TNR. I feel like we just have the same interview every week.
Fair enough. Well, Jake, since we've had, basically every interview the same way, what's next? I'm sure you have some shout outs, so let's hear them.
Absolutely. You and Peter over here in the 3WTV booth. It's always fun going back and watching the race afterwards and seeing it from y'all's perspective. Garrett and Floppy and all the TNR admins for putting on the league. Shout out to DJ Weeks, my crew chief. He was in there again. We were just kind of chilling the whole race, talking about whatever. Kind of ran by ourselves and still running the Callie car. Callie, if you watch this, I don't know if you do. I'm trying to put her in victory lane for you. It's hard. He's fast. But and then the rest of the drivers are just keeping her clean and having good racing.
Awesome. Well, Jake, congrats there on the third place finish, and hoping some good luck out there next week for you at Homestead.
I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
All right, that's our third place finisher, Jake Bustos, and I believe Peter's caught up with our second place finisher, Philip Scott.
Well, if Jake is still listening, there's a way to fix that. You just have to put that number one machine in the fence. But hey, let's go pick up our runner-up here tonight, Philip Scott. Don't tell Jason that I said that, Bob. But Philip Scott, runner-up here, finishing in second in the Roll Ninja League machine. Philip, kind of a quiet night from you. I mean, you come home in second. You made a good couple of moves early. You started this race in sixth position. Kind of talk us through it.
Yeah, It was nice to have a relatively uneventful race for a change. It was I knew that obviously Jason was going to be really hard to beat, but I gave it what I could in the first stint. I stayed right with him till like we started to catch lap traffic. Then dirty air made the fact I was already in dirty air behind him made it. Then once we got into lap traffic, it just made it worse. Then I kind of just lost it on the pit cycle. Came in a lap later than him, and he just had a better in and out than I did. I think I think some lap cars were on newer tires were passing me on my in lap, and so lost a little bit of time that way. And then I started to claw it back, and then near the start of the stint, then just I don't know. The car just it's a little harder to chase someone down when they're that far out. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to just bring home second.
Yeah, I know. I've been in that situation as well, and when you have a car in front of you that you can see, sometimes it's a little bit easier, and then all of a sudden when they're gone, it's it's a pretty tall task. But nonetheless, a great run for you as we round out this season next week at the Homestead Miami Speedway. What are your thoughts of the 1.5 mile down there on the coast?
I'm very curious to see how these cars are at Homestead. It's been a very interesting. It's been a pretty mixed bag of either all the tracks this season, either the right front wears out or the rears wear out, or everything, or in the case of Las Vegas, everything. So I think that I'll just have to kind of race kind of like today. I gotta just try to race as calmly as possible, keep my car under me, save my stuff as best as I can. But yeah, I was bad at Homestead for a long time, but then I started to figure it out last season in an NSRA. So we'll see how it goes.
Definitely going to be an interesting one rounding out the season next week, Philip. We'll definitely be curious to know how those cars will drive in the hot and slick weather that we have down there in the south. But before we let you go, Philip, anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, worldninjaleague.org, as usual. Check us out.
All right. Well, if you haven't checked out World Ninja League so far this year, make sure you do so to support Philip Scott and his organization. But Philip, we'll see you next week at Homestead.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our second place finish, and I believe that Bob has caught up with tonight's race winner, Jason Gracias.
Yeah, I'm down here in Victory Lane for, I believe, the 7th time speaking with our winner tonight, Jason Gracias. Jason, first of all, congrats on the win, and just walk me through that race. You kind of led from the drop of the green flag. You beat Jake into turn 1 and didn't really look back.
Yeah, the MDR boys back to the shop gave me a really fast number 1 maxgraphics.co Chevrolet Camaro. We just Jason Freeman on the pit box applied some notes that we learned from Dover to this other concrete track, and we made a couple changes, and it looks like they stuck. And she was quick tonight. Very pleased. We made the right adjustments all race long to stay ahead of the changing track, and thankfully we're back in the victory lane.
And, you talk about the changing track. The track temp's about 122 degrees at the start of the race. How hard was it to keep the tires on it and keep it all in one piece? Because it looked hot and slick out there.
There was, I was just going over some things with Bustos after the race, but there was a small margin of error out here, and if you missed your line by 6 to 8 inches, you would definitely burn up your tire. So the name of the game was just trying to be consistent, trying to hit the same line time after time, just to give the car a little bit more grip. It was definitely tighter out there. And dirty air was nothing fun to enjoy out here. So I just try to be as smooth as I can and hit my marks, and thankfully it worked out for me.
Definitely. And, next week, championship race at Homestead, kind of the way it should be in real life. But at Homestead, what are your thoughts there of going to that 1.5-mile track?
Oh, Homestead is the second best track that NASCAR goes to, with Dover being number one. But Homestead should be fun. There's, at least in this car, there are truly multiple grooves to race with this car. There's the wall, there's the middle, there's the bottom. So it should be interesting. It's really going to be a race of, I think, attrition, to be honest, where um, the fixed set is definitely on the looser side, kind of like what we had back at Vegas at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the chase. So it's going to be interesting to see who can definitely keep the tires underneath of them, especially the rear end. But the guys who are more aggressive, that are willing to rip the wall or go up there and ride inches from disaster should be rewarded. So next week should be really fun. Great way to cap off the season. I know I'm sure other guys have the same sentiment, but I'm looking forward to the off season, taking some time off of iRacing and just drinking beer on Monday instead of playing iRacing.
I definitely like the sound of that. And Jason, before we let you go, I'm sure you have some shout outs, so let's hear them.
Yeah, thanks to Matt Rod, Mike Tellier for the sponsorship of the race. And InTOXIKated Gaming won 46.3 here at Nashville. Thanks to Chris Darling, MaxGraphics.co, for always giving me some really cool looking paint schemes. If you guys need any work done, check them out at MaxGraphics.co. Look them up on Facebook, join the Discord. They're turning out some really cool paint schemes over there. Thanks to 3WTV, Jason Schue for being a presenting sponsor, Garrett Gleason for running the league, putting everything together, Mike, shout out to Mike for helping him out. Thanks to all the drivers that showed up week in and week out. I know as you get towards the end of the season and you're in the chase, car counts dwindle, but hopefully when we start back up for 23, we can go back to having 20 plus car fields. Thanks to you and Peter for the broadcast. Bob and Peter, you guys do a great job. If you guys are still in the chat right now, drop a like and subscribe. And hopefully I'll be talking to you guys next week in Victory Lane. I'm going to try my hardest.
Awesome. Well, Jason, congrats again on the win. Looking forward to seeing you out there next week at Homestead.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Everyone have a good night.
All right. Well, that is going to do it with tonight's race winner in the number one machine for the 7th time this season. And very, very impressive to see Jason getting the win once again. My, oh my. Trying to get, not quite able to get to double digits, but looking for win number 8 next week here on 3WTV. Let's bring up the final race results, however, for everyone back home. Jason Gracia has taken home the win in the number 1. Philip Scott finishing 7 seconds back behind Jake Bustos in 3rd. Tristan Thuggy Maher in 4th. Bill Edwards rounds out our top 5 here tonight. Mike Floppy Tellier in 6th. James Arello finishing home in 7th after that slightly different pit strategy. I don't think it really worked out for him. I think he could have finished maybe 6th. But nonetheless, just a little bit short for him in his comeback of finishing inside the top 6. David Duran finishing in 8th here tonight. Last driver on the lead lap. Vincent Valvano in 9th. 1 lap down. Jamar Dumas in 10th. Stephen Ozier Jr. 11th. Also on the same pit strategy as James Arello. Robert Tripp finishing in 12th. Jason Schue, the only driver 2 laps down, in 13th. And Garrett Gleason, who did not complete the final 17 laps of tonight's 146.3 mile event. Kind of an interesting name. But Bob, next week we go to Homestead, Miami, rounding out the season. It's one of my favorite mile-and-a-half racetracks. Multi-groove, variable banking, all that good stuff. Hopefully the cars will be hard to drive and we get an entertaining race.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping so as well. Keep the cars nice and loose. Let them slide around. loose car, hot and slick track will be a lot of fun watching these guys try to, dirt track it around, especially with having multiple grooves. This could be a fun wrap to the season for sure. And man, I'm looking forward to it already.
Big shout out to InTOXIKated Gaming for sponsoring tonight's event, as well as the other partners here in the 3WTV Cup Series, including Schue's Lawn Service and our good friends over at Stay Tuned Sports and their podcast. Make sure you listen to the Stay Tuned Sports podcast every week to get all of the latest news in sports and a little bit of a new take on sports as well. Listening to our good friend Jimbo and all of the other broadcasters over there at Stay Tuned Sports. But Bob, one more race for the crown, and Jason Gracias has pretty much got two hands on it. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone can dethrone him, but he's definitely got a pretty big lead and adds to his points lead after tonight's event. But until we meet again next week, same time, same place here on the channel, folks, stay safe and all that good stuff, and we shall see ya.